You're watching The Perspective. I'm Florence Armain with Matthew Myers, the president for Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. Tell us about this campaign, Matthew.
Well, we're delighted to be working in Indonesia. We've been here for about 8 or 9 years already. You know, one of the reasons we focus so much on young people is because virtually all long-term tobacco users start as children. When we first began, we didn't know how to prevent children from starting, but we do today. We know that by eliminating the kind of images that you see at sporting events, you can change young people's perceptions of tobacco use. By increasing the price through higher taxes, we can discourage kids from ever starting. The fastest way to prevent someone from dying of lung cancer is to help them never start smoking. And the key to that in the long term is to create a tobacco-free generation. That's why the work that we're doing, supporting a broad spectrum of groups working on these issues in Indonesia, is about the most important public health work that we could do anywhere.
And Indonesia is said to enjoy or benefit from a bonus of its demography if it adopts the FCTC 2020 to 2030. So, and why hasn't this taken off yet? Let's go back to your campaign for now. So, you're not campaigning just inside the U.S., but you're campaigning all over the world, including Indonesia.
We spend much more of our time working outside the United States than we do inside the United States, supporting local groups in low-income countries and emerging countries like Indonesia, to enable those groups to bring the case to their government and to parents and to groups across the country to educate young people about the health effects of smoking, but even more importantly, to educate public officials that they literally hold the key to the long-term health of their children. So in Indonesia, we've seen real leadership by mayors and governors who have taken strong steps. What we haven't yet seen is leadership by the central government.
Yeah. Now, this is the question on the top of my head. One of the efforts is having those pictures of the impact of smoking on cigarette packs. However, they sell cigarettes in the pieces to kids, to youngsters. So they don't even have to see what the packaging looks like. How effective is just this move?
You know, you've hit on a very important point. Pictures on cigarette packs are one of the most effective ways to educate young people about the real health effects of tobacco use. But countries that have done it successfully also prohibit retailers from selling single cigarettes to kids so that they can avoid it. It's one of the reasons that tobacco companies often fight legislation. But in most countries around the globe today, it's illegal to sell single cigarettes to young people. You're required to sell them in packs of 10 or 20 so that the graphic warning labels, that those pictures that tell such a vibrant story actually have the desired effects.
Is there a law out there that prohibits children, just like alcohol, below 21, below 17, you're not allowed to get cigarettes?
Right. Well, you know, the issue is we shouldn't penalize children. We should penalize the adults who sell to children. That's the critical question. You're addressing
the problem, not just preventing it from...
You're preventing it, and you're holding the adults responsible, not the kids who are too young to know better. And what we have learned is that if you penalize retailers who sell to children, they will change their behavior. And if you do it with enough frequency, you can reduce the number of kids who actually start. The best thing to do, and many countries have done it, is make it so that cigarette packs aren't visible in the retail outlet. We've worked in a number of countries, most recently in Russia, that bans the display of cigarette packages. And what Russia has seen each of the last 3 years is close to double-digit declines in tobacco use, including dramatic declines among its young people.
That's the first step into closing the access into getting the cigarettes
It's closing
openly.
the access, and it's making it hard for the tobacco companies to make their packages into advertisements that attract young people. What we have learned is if young people don't see them when they go into stores, then they're not tempted to buy them.
So in these countries that you worked with around the world, which of the countries you think in the region or in other continents Indonesia could actually look up to and say, you know what, we can apply this in our country?
Well, the good news is that almost every country in the ASEAN region has taken strong action except for Indonesia. Philippines raised its tobacco tax and saw an immediate decline in tobacco use, including among children, even while it saw an increase in revenue. India has just adopted graphic warning labels covering 85% of the pack. Sri Lanka has adopted graphic warning labels covering 80% of the pack and engaged in a broad public education campaign. Bangladesh has banned smoking indoors literally everywhere. And as a net result, in every country surrounding this area, we're seeing declines in tobacco use.
And this also applies the same for advertisements concerning cigarettes?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, it varies slightly, but you know, Sri Lanka, Cambodia have broad-based bans on all tobacco advertisements. India has adopted a strong ban on tobacco marketing as well. So that, and Thailand has a complete ban on all forms of tobacco marketing. So what we're seeing in all the countries literally surrounding Indonesia is that they have taken steps to make it hard for the tobacco industry to project the images that make tobacco seem cool, even though it's not. They've raised the price of tobacco products so they're less accessible to young people, and they've adopted strong graphic warning labels to really begin the educational process.
It's funny you mentioned education on tobacco. Here in Indonesia, the big producers are offsetting this by having foundations, universities that they build, and also foundations that are supposedly channeling or that work as their CSR. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's insidious.
It doesn't make them any right.
No, well, actually, it's worse. It's insidious because the tobacco companies are doing here what we've seen them do in developed countries for many years, which is they're giving money, particularly to student groups, pretty much as a political cover in order to continue the same behavior that is addicting all of those kids to their products. Instead of giving money to young people to help their education, they ought to stop marketing their tobacco products to them if they really cared about the health of those young people. So we're not suggesting the young people shouldn't accept a scholarship if it's given to them, but what we're saying is that no one should be deceived. This is money designed to make them appear to be good guys, even while they continue to engage in marketing and sales to young people that is causing devastating harm throughout the country.
Yeah, this is what we're concerned about. They're spending a lot more money to deceive the public that they're actually wanting to do good, but in the in the backyard, we know something else is going on. We'll be right back.